Welcome. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. So this morning's session we're going to be talking about construction and progress tracking. We're going to be talking about some of the tools that we are using in the industry. For those of you who need the CPD points, we will have this open up at the end of today's chat, and I will have it open in the boardroom if you guys missed it in the chat this morning. Myself, I'm Warwick. I've been in the construction industry for 9 years. I've been working in South Africa and 7 countries abroad, and I've got a lot of experience on the ground, and that's why I feel using tools like this, I never had the ability to, I never had the option to. So I understand the pains involved with having, doing the work processes manually versus having the tools set up in the industry today. And then Tabello's going to be co-presenting with myself.
Yeah, guys, I'm Tabello, right? Right? It's important you get that right. But I've been in the industry for 12 years as an application engineer, BIM manager, and now customer success manager with Modena. Right, like what Warwick said, I've been more in the consultant side and lately interacting a lot with the guys in the field using the technologies that we want to show you today. Okay? So.
Apologies, the audio is a bit bad. The speaker wasn't working, so I hope it's going to be audible to everyone.
Hey! Tell Kevin, we need to redo this ball! We have to demo it all! The electricians won't play ball! He's in the hall!
I'll tell Nathaniel. Material recall. Okie dokie. They're gonna fire Paul.
Make it 3 feet tall! 3 feet tall? Everything wrong!
Yeah, that's too small. Recall. Hexagonal. Horizontal.
Right? We need to install a waterfall. Be on the same page at every stage with Autodesk construction. Baseball.
How many of you guys have installed waterfalls? So just a quick content discussion. We're going to be talking and looking at progress tracking. We'll have a look at visual tracking tools, photos and auto tagging. We'll briefly discuss Hollow Builder, and then we'll finish it off with a Q&A session at the end.
Okay, cool, let's get started. Okay, digitizing construction is one of the most global economy, it's one of our economy's largest sector, right? And in the past 2 decades, in different industries, we've seen an increase of 2.8% in productivity, right? But in 2 decades in construction, we've only seen like 1% increase in productivity, right? This is taken from a report done by McKinsey. Oh, you guys know McKinsey, right? They further went and did a research on how digitization can improve our industry, and they came across this interesting fact as well, that if construction companies invest in digitizing our industry, right, continuing to embrace new materials, like we always like to do, and also advanced automation, that'll increase our productivity by 50 to 60%, right, and also save costs by 4 to 6%. It's just a bit of a delay here, right? But all this just goes back to us, right? Mainly in the industry, consultants are adopting digitization, but site has become has lagged a little bit when it comes to digitization. How is it overseas for you?
Tough.
Tough, yeah?
Tough, yeah. We are based in Liberia. We were there for 6 months. We had to action a whole bunch of concrete repair work. But because the head office was based in London, my office was based in Johannesburg, and we were based on site in Liberia, we had this triangle communication approach. So we were spending weeks and weeks and weeks doing nothing because we were waiting for feedback from my office because London was delayed. So if we could increase the feedback response time, where we could be working on a common data environment, that 6 weeks, 10 weeks, 12 weeks of standing time could have been reduced to a week, could have been reduced to a day. Ultimately, the technology is here to save time and to save costs. And time is something we cannot buy.
Sure.
So keep that in mind, guys. It's great, it's fantastic. We can save resources, we can save this, we can save that, but ultimately it's time that we're after.
Sure. Right, if you look at this graph, also taken out of the MGI report, right, there's just a graph showing how different industries globally are digitizing, right? And interestingly enough, it literally, I've been in the industry for 12 years. It feels like Modena or today's shoving software down our throats. But if you look where construction is sitting, it's just about agriculture when it comes to digitizing. And it's been like this for almost 10 years. I remember talking about this like almost 10 years ago as well. Right? And it just goes back to looking at the business in a whole, right? And being interested in adopting and improving our businesses as well. Right? I'm not going to sell any of this stuff, but this is just some of the softwares that have grown to assist construction in improving our processes. Right? I know this all feels like, most of the time as I was preparing this, I always felt like it feels like we're trying to shout how Europe builds or USA builds, and say South Africa or Africa doesn't build well. We actually build great buildings, right? The way it works, the way we've been working. But it's important for us to start adopting technology that will help our businesses and improve our workflows. For example, I'll talk about today's construction cloud. Faro is a laser scanner, there's a stand for it. Metaport, there's also a stand for Metaport. But these are all affordable ways for capturing information on site and bringing it back to your office. We'll talk deeply into Hollow Builder as well, right? And there's also Planoly session, I think right after this one. Planoly is basically a BIM management platform. Who's ever done a BIM execution plan? Who's ever followed a BIM execution plan? Right. So what Planoly does, it assists everyone to keep track of their BIM execution plan. I think I've written like 6 this year, and they just popped in ACC. Okay, but going into it, we're just going to carry on. Is that fine? Okay. This quick case study. So we place at Modena, we place BIM managers at different consulting offices, and what work has been seeing as well is developers and contractors starting to ask for BIM management services as well. Right? So I had the privilege of working with one of the biggest developers here in South Africa. I won't mention names, right? But what was interesting over there, they were having, you guys know how site works, like subbies go on site, take photos for clashes on site, even though you've got a zero clash model, right? So they were running this clash meetings for like 6 hours every Tuesday, right? And then we had this project here to take the model coordination model from ACC to site. Right, and that reduced that meeting down to 2 hours. Because what was happening, guys were taking photos, opening floor plans on PDF, print it out, and they're trying to find where this clashes on 2D. But just by merely bringing a digital model on site, it improved the meeting time by 2 hours, right? And you know how much cost that takes in a project, right? But what is interesting for this specific contractor, I'm working with them on a different project now, and they've just decided to buy what today's build, right? So I asked them, okay, how do you manage your site instructions? I don't know if you guys remember carbon paper books, right? So a stack of books like this, where subbies and consultants were putting in site instructions in a book that will eventually go over to a lawyer when things go bad in a project, and that freaked me out a little bit. I'm sure you've filled in a few of those, eh?
I've lost a few of them as well.
You've lost a few of them as well. Right, but what was interesting for me, what got me a bit excited, this contractor said to me, that's actually the PM, he's tracking progress on site, right? But the way he's tracking progress on site, he's got a PDF, prints out, and then he takes photos, right? Or he converts the PDF to Word, and then he just dumps photos into a folder. And he wanted a more improved way of tracking progress on site. And the nice thing with that, I introduced him to Build, and Build has a photos function on it. Do you guys have Build? Have you used Build? Just
Anyone?
no? Oh, perfect. Great. I don't want to say virgin, so I don't want to be inappropriate. Okay, but there's a function that Autodesk Build has, which is photos, visual tracking photos. I'm not going to give you demos, we're just going to talk about it, just introduce it to you. We do have a station that we station at where in the boardroom, where we can take you into the different solutions in detail. Okay. You can jump in anytime if you want, Warwick. Cool. Right. Okay, well, using photos in construction has been going on for years, like what I just said now. The way we've managed it is a bit inefficient, as we all agree. but because we rely heavily on documentation on site. Photos in constructions are critical and can act as a source of truth, right? They can capture more detail in less time, we all agree, right? Photos allow us to track changes on site, even though communication can take long, right? Increase safety. Yeah, we've had a few incidents in one of our sites as well, right? Reduce the risk of lawsuits, right? And deliver a better product. That second last point on the reduce the risk of lawsuits is quite important because you need to be able to go back to the photo that you took. Evidence, yes.
How many of you guys have been in that uncomfortable cost report with the PQS where you are claiming for money due to you and they're refusing to pay you out? Why? Because we do not have the relevant information at hand to prove our case.
Sure thing. But what I also realized, we actually, after that incident, we actually started using PlanGrid. And that also actually helped us.
So are you familiar with PlanGrid?
I use PlanGrid on a daily.
So are you aware that Autodesk Construction Cloud bought PlanGrid out? And PlanGrid is one tool set offered by the builder.
I had no idea.
Okay, cool. I was getting there.
Sorry. Stop asking great questions.
Okay, let me just get this. I had to pause and everything, but we have to be fluid there. South Africa, man.
Is it?
Okay, let me just get to that. All right, so I just want to take you through how briefly it works. Come on. Can you help me there, Warwick?
I don't know what you want to do.
You don't want to.
I don't know what you want me to do.
Just move that video a bit forward, but let's just wait for it. I'll chat about it. So what happens now, like the nice thing with this, it'll come up shortly.
Okay, leave it.
Okay, it'll come up shortly. We have 30 minutes. So what Autodesk has done nicely, you're able to geolocate your photos. Right? So open up on PlanGrid on your mobile device, walk around site, go to a specific floor plan, take a photo. That photo is geolocated to that location. So people prefer, it's so weird, like people still can't read plans. But we still use plans.
Yeah.
But if you show a person, a client, you are in this training room, and this is what happened on this day. This photo is taken by this person.
And it's
That's what
date
basically
and
photos
time
is.
stamped.
Date and timestamp as well. Okay. Let's go. I'm gonna pop up now. Sorry.
There we are.
Okay. So, all built on Autodesk Build. Easy to capture, manage, and also share. Right. So, briefly, the workflow is very simple. Right. This is just basically just standardizing it, making it formal, easy to find and track and stuff. Right. So you can go into your floor plan, go into a specific location, capture your photo, share it to a specific user, right, and it gets organized nicely on your Autodesk Build platform, right, and you can put additional data like location, etc., etc. Makes sense, right? Okay. I'm going to move on because of time. This is very interesting, right? Autodesk leverages also machine learning using auto tags, right? So when you open up photos, you can drag your photos into Autodesk Build, right? Immediately, using 50 tags that are already preset in ACC, ACC will auto tag those photos. So it looks for ducts, pipes, wall, etc., and it attaches those tags to that. You can also put in your own custom tags as well. What this helps with, when you're assigning issues and everything, you're assigning issues to electrical, who always clashes with HVAC, right? You can filter out cable trays and show them all that stuff. What was interesting with this, in that same project, the clash register, they were doing clashes, right? They had an Excel file with all these photos in it. The file size is like around 400 megabytes, right? And it's got like around 900 lines that they're using to track all these clashes. It's cumbersome to work with something like that. Okay. I'm sure you dealt with that.
Yeah. We weren't doing anything digitally or manual.
Yeah. Okay, so that's photos, that's visual tracking, right? And you can assign that to it. Yes, sir.
Sorry, I just want to find out, so AutoCAD Build, is that standalone or does it have to AutoCAD ACC?
That's your one, bro.
So ACC offers two platforms for your site management, which are Docs, which is your foundational document management tool, and Autodesk Build, which is meant for your on-site management, which has Docs as a foundation for your document management. So it all depends on who needs what, when and how. So you won't have a document controller sitting in your office using build, because I think the costs associated with the build will not allow you to recover your cost back for the person sitting, not utilizing the tools. So build is used to primarily manage your construction day-to-day activities, and not for your general documentation control. If that answers your question.
Yeah.
I'm just looking for a new product that works on site.
Yeah, so you can purchase build on its own.
On its own.
Yeah, you don't have to purchase
Yeah.
everything else.
So if you
Yeah.
are using authoring tools and you have purchased the AEC collection, it does include docs. It does unfortunately not include ACC build.
So can you use that to sort of do an asset validation on assets that is already, let's say, in Revit or CAD? You just want to make sure that all of those assets are still there, so in any case, you then walk from plant room to plant room, scan it in, take a photo, and then it builds directly
Yes.
of that building's
So
assets.
in build,
Yeah.
following this, come see me in the boardroom. I'll show you the assets toolset.
Okay,
So what it allows you to scan a QR code or a barcode,
okay,
load that, you'll just include the assets details, and you can export that into a digital twin
Yep.
for management.
you can see where I'm going to be.
Yes, I know, with the occupation or...
For vertical.
We're radical.
For vertical.
Yeah, but it does, they've improved it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can bring those photos, assign them. You can literally go to site, click
Yes.
on that asset
Yes.
on your floor plan, take a photo of it, and then in ACC it'll attach that photo to
Can
that
I run it
asset.
on a tablet?
Yes.
Absolutely. And the nice thing is it is date, timestamp.
Yes, that's what I like.
Yeah.
I think me and you spoke about that.
Yes, we did.
Time.
Cool.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Move on. Yeah. Progress tracking. Right. This is a tool that's getting introduced. It's still on beta stage on ACC. I think you can access it. I've got it activated on my hub.
We will have it activated,
Yeah.
but I think a lot of the guys won't.
We'll communicate that. But it's another.
Just a small question. So let's say if I'm actually on the site, right, and I have build installed on my iPad, right, and I don't have my iPad at that specific moment in time, or the battery is just bad. Is it possible for me to then still take the photo and then still upload it later on
Yes.
onto my computer and still have the exact data?
So if your iPad dies, bring out your cell phone because it is all cloud-based.
Sure.
Carry on working.
Yeah.
If there is no signal on site, say in the basement, all the information will be stored on your phone until such a time you have got access to internet, and then we'll upload.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks, so just going to talk about progress tracking on site. Imagine being able to visually see the progress of work on your job site. But you know how it is. Currently, concrete pours. I'll use concrete pours as an example, right? We rely so much on the project managers and the main contractor to tell us how far they are, right? But you don't see it. So what I want to present now is just a way the contractors and the PMs can update the office on what's happening on site. Right? Product is called progress tracking in ACC Build, right? And traditionally, as you guys know, we rely on Excel sheets, PDFs, put into drawer, updated, and then stamp, put a date on there, right? I know a company, currently they're one of these big architects, every Tuesday they send 6 people down to Cape Town to check progress on one of the projects that they're working on. Okay, but traditionally, I trained this GNC on Navisworks. I don't know if you guys can see this. When BIM came through as an application engineer, we were all excited, telling consultants that you can set up a 4D scheduling file in Navisworks, bring in the project plan from the project manager and attach it to your BIM model and keep track of what's happening on site. Right? The problem with that was it became very resource intense, right? And it consumed a lot of time. And most of the consultants wouldn't hire a specific person to just sit on Navisworks, go to site, check how far the project plan, update the project plan, come back to Navisworks, and then update the file again. So it became useless, kind of just stopped there. I still loved it anyway. Do you guys see this video? Yeah, I wish I could make it bigger, right? I made an error like two years ago with one of these property developers, and I showed them this video for 4D scheduling. Quite animated, it's got trucks and pours of concrete and else up. The developer was like, yeah, I want this in a month. They're putting up a 3,000 social housing project in Durban. I was like, I'll do it for you. Right? Obviously, I struggle, right? Because we tried and I'm guilty of this. We sell pretty pictures and never see what actually happens on site.
Yeah.
Right, so what we've come across, or what we've suggested is take the way we work as South Africans, right, bring that into the software and still achieve the same digital aspect of it. Okay, I ended up doing this on Lumion, some editing software, etc., etc. But now what we have, you guys will see, Unity Reflect does a similar thing where you can animate your Navisworks and Revit files and still get the same kind of results with it, right? All I'm saying is this is labor intensive and you don't want to waste time just to keep track of what's happening on site. It becomes a movie instead of a usable
You
thing.
made the mistake once, eh?
Once, never again. Okay, so progress tracking. Okay, the term progress tracking can mean a variety of things, right? You can track material, timesheets, task, installation, etc. In Autodesk Build, it focuses on tracking installation activities in projects as a % complete or quantity of materials installed for a given project and location, right? And the way it works, I don't know if you guys can see that, the information keeps office teams aware of progress in order to analyze and update plans and stay on schedule. It also empowers field teams with productivity forecasts, which help to organize future work and the arrival of different trades on site. So for example, we can track how much concrete has been poured on the lower level, on the third floor where the MEP has been installed in, etc., etc. And it's very visual. So you can sit in the office as long as the contractor is updating the progress on site, right? And you can literally just go and filter out the different areas of that floor plan and see how far and what has been installed, right? Another thing as well, so with sites, subbies come in and then just drop off material, right?
Oh,
Specifically with steel as well, we're chatting about it, yeah.
escalators, elevators.
Yeah, and we rely a lot as a main contractor to know how much has been delivered on site and how much of it has been installed. This helps with keeping track of it. Okay.
So does this mean you're able to actually then do a takeoff if let's say someone actually wants to look at the project at that specific moment in time? Are they able to actually do a takeoff and then provide the
You are able to do a takeoff, not through something called build. So
Yes.
we actually have an Autodesk product called takeoff itself.
takeoff, yes.
So you will use your Revit model to take off, explode that into a separate compartments that are needed to build the asset. And then from that, you can start working on what resources are required, what's needed. You can highlight resources that have arrived on site. You can keep the ones that haven't arrived unhighlighted. So you are able to keep track of what's currently on site and what's expected to come to site. Yeah.
And
Awesome.
it's an Autodesk
Autodesk product called Takeoff, but that's a separate purchase.
And remember that's at design stage, yes sir.
Yeah.
It's very easy to say you can keep track of materials on site. How?
So, great question. You know, I think all the software we're busy showing you now is only as good as the information that's put into it.
Yes, exactly.
And one big thing I've seen all over the world, not just in South Africa, is when we try to do a digital adoption and we try to change everything at once, that's when things fail. So what we like to do is we like to come to you, to your business, to your site, and understand what your problems are, and let's start tackling the low-hanging fruits. So Build, for example, is able to give you a whole bunch of tool sets, but you're currently having issues with RFI management. Let's get your RFI management under control digitally, and then start growing the other tool sets. Because if we change everything at once, there will be a failure. There definitely will be a failure. As we start progressing into the use of digital tools in the industry, we will start seeing an adoption from the users. And then that's when the tools like this will start benefiting the industry itself. But it has to be a slow adoption, unfortunately. It's just the way the construction industry is. We are slow to change.
There's no point in giving someone the keys to the Lamborghini when he struggles to ride a bicycle.
100%.
Exactly. Yeah.
So we start building up the levels so that, you know, once the transition is done, it's happened, the guys are comfortable using the digital tools. Because, you know, in the industry now, and I'm struggling, and I really am struggling. I'm speaking to industry leaders, and they're busy building from the back of the cigarette packet. Because that's all they know. And I think the industry is very scared for change. And I don't understand why. Because we have the most benefit from the change. So that's why we're taking a very slow adoption and we're saying, listen, what are your current issues? What are your midterm plans? What are your future goals? And we can set out a work plan to achieve those targets going forward.
Okay. I want to give Warwick an opportunity to just have time to talk about Hollowville. Right? Just my last slide, Warwick.
No.
And then you can go ahead. Another advantage of progress tracking like that, you can attach it to cost management, right? You can keep your project able to keep your project on time and within budget, and can easily see productivity impact. Now, once again, if you put garbage in the system, you're going to get garbage out. But if everyone is updating the information accurately, whoever is managing the costs of the platform can still make use of that information coming from progress tracking and assign it to your costing part of your project.
So if you've got your BOQ and then you've got your program, is it able to tie things together?
Yes, that's
based
all I
on
need.
that?
Yes, that's all I need. So just get a single source of truth, right, and still able to feed information to different parts of your project.
Does that relate to the actual drawings?
Yes.
And so it can understand.
What's happening in the drawing. So remember, contractor will be working from the drawings issued by the consultants. If they're raising RFIs, it will be against the drawing as well. So all the information goes back to the building.
But obviously using a 3D model is a little bit better because of the metadata included in the model.
Yeah.
You know, 2D plans are all there, that's just 2D plans, it's linear lines. If we can start adopting the use of 3D models with that information, we're able to manage the projects a little bit better and have that 40 times simulation set out.
So you have a 3D model, and that 3D model understands that there's 10,000 cubes of earth removal, or
Yeah.
whatever the case is,
Yeah.
and it understands from the program that you've got so much time to do that, and that's your cost curves on that.
So your cost curve is your fifth dimension, which you'll put on top of your 4D. It's not a prerequisite, but there is a way that you can start estimating your costs with relation to your project activities at a certain date.
I suppose it will show you as you're updating your progress how that's
100%. And there's always a massive peak, and then it drops off with a small peak, and then it closes out.
But then each activity would have to have a costing price.
Yes.
so that will translate
That's
item by
the
item.
difficult.
Yeah.
Yes, that's
That's
the
the
difficult.
difficult.
I know. Yeah, well, we'll chat about it. I think we're having a conversation, right? So we can go a bit into the Q&A time for your section.
Well, look, I'm going to talk about HoloBuilder, and basically HoloBuilder, what it allows you to do is visit your sites virtually. And you know, Tabelo was talking about one of his clients sending 6 consultants down to Cape Town on a weekly basis because they need to go and see what's happening on site. You know, and it's not really the cost of the air travel that is expensive, because cost of air travel is pretty much fixed.
It's extremely expensive.
Versus the time of unproductivity. Where I have 6 executives sitting on a plane doing nothing for 2 hours.
Add it all together.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not the 2 hours of air travel, it's the hour driving to the airport, it's the 2 hours waiting to check onto the plane. So at the end of the day, you have a whole day of wasted time for 6 execs. You know? So if we look at HoloBuilder, what is HoloBuilder? You know, it is just a digital platform for you to visit your sites virtually and understand what's happening on site real time. Play a couple videos here. So HoloBuilder, all it is, it's the use of a 360-degree camera. Doesn't have to be specifically any camera, but there are ones that we do recommend. That links up to a cloud platform that allows you to upload 360-degree photos onto your project plan for your site office or your head office's review, you know, on a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly basis. What's nice with HoloBuilder, it links up to PlaneGrid, so you are able to raise issues and RFIs if you see something's wrong on the photo. The wall is blue, it should have been black. You know, red line it, raise an issue, link that through to ACC Build, and then you can start managing and tracking the issues from HoloBuilder itself. All it is a way for you to virtually see what's going on site. There's a great tool where you're able to compare historical data to current, so you can track progress. And there are ways for you to integrate your Revit and Navisworks models to compare design intent versus actual construction built. I think it's in this video. I don't think so.
That's an issue going out to you.
So yeah, so here's somebody adding a markup, not happy with that, linking that to ACC. and now there is the information in BIM, you know, and that information is being managed accordingly. Here's somebody comparing a Navisworks model. So that's intent versus actual.
So is it a plug and play into your Revit or another application running on top of it?
So on the HoloBuild application, you'll just download the Revit plugin and then import your Revit files. You just need to set your 0 point so that it knows where you are in relation to the model, and then you can start walking around the site. Yes.
Overlay the model, but it shows the model and then.
There's the actual. Yeah. So all you need to do is just set your points, and then it knows where to reference from. And that goes the same way for your historical tracking. So if I take a photo here today, and I take a photo here in a week's time, and I take a photo here in a week's time, it doesn't really matter because the information is pretty much the same. You know, so it doesn't have to be pinpoint accurate. All this does, it allows you to visit your sites virtually and save that time of travel, which gives you the ability to now start tendering on projects in Cape Town as a Joburg-based company. Because you don't have to worry about those costs associated with your P&Gs, raising your costs through the roof and ultimately losing the project. You know, you can have your team down there, give them a bit of training on how to take a photo. It is not hard. Load it up onto the platform, and then it gives you, as business owners and project managers and the like, the ability to see what's going on daily, weekly, monthly. The nice thing is, as engineers, for example, have a lifetime guarantee on the work that they sign. Once the project is done, you can download it as an offline viewing file. So you have got reference to all your historical data forever. So if there is ever a problem with the client saying, listen, the bridge collapsed, it's your fault, you can always go back and say, no, but here's the photos, here's the digital sign-off, you know, here's your approval, here's your acceptance of what's going on. My hands are clean. And that is the power of photos. Again, here is your Autodesk Construction Cloud, your Navisworks and your Autodesk Revit plugins. And that's pretty much that. HoloBuild is very simple, but it's a very powerful tool. We will have it on display throughout the day in the offices, so I want to show you what it's about. We have got a big touchscreen TV in the boardroom, and I want to show you what HoloBuild actually looks like in projects that we have been using.
Sorry.
Yes, sir.
Is there a way of, when you do a comparison, is there a way of overlapping the digital model and
No.
which on site?
So what it will do is it will split it into two windows, and you'll have your Navisworks or Revit versus actual. You will lock the screen, so when you rotate, both screens will rotate at the same time, giving you that feel of overlay, but there is no overlapping functionality.
Not in HoloBuild, but
Not
if
in
you chat to the Unity guys,
Yeah.
you can do it.
Yeah, because I'm thinking you might, even though you're panning and rotating, you might miss an element from
Visually looking at it.
exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, but there's other softwares that can do a similar stuff. Okay.
Okay. Q&A time.
So what sort of scale of projects are you looking at? So obviously you get anything from a landscaping to a million.
Are we talking on HoloBuild now?
Well, just like
Just
the
in general.
application of the general software.
So, you know, I would honestly say if we are looking at building one or two houses every now and then, the use for this really doesn't talk because you're not going to get the value and the cost savings out of it. But we start looking at projects that are running over, you know, multiple years that are reaching the 2, 3, 4 billion rand marks when there's a lot of risk involved. Because this is all about risk mitigation. You know, at the end of the day, when you're in court and you need to tell the judge, listen, it wasn't me, how will you prove it? Because unfortunately, that's the way construction industry works. Most of these projects end up in court. And a lot of the time, the subcontractors are the ones that are losing the most. You know? So all we are doing, we are offering you ways to mitigate your risk by proving work's done, by proving handovers complete, by proving client acceptance, you know, and then using those workflows as the I in BIM for your information, and the M, how are we managing the information going forward?
And I just add on to that. We're working on a smaller project, right, with this contractor. I can't use name,
Yeah.
but it's a hotel. It's like 3-bed units, 4-bed units, apartments, right? And the architect and the whole team saw that as an opportunity to start adopting this way of working, right? Because it's a lower risk, And once they get it right in the smaller project, then they can implement it on the bigger project. The biggest thing that I've seen in South Africa specifically, we try to adopt a new thing while building a 2.4 billion rand building, and the risk is way high. So I always say take it one bite at a time, use a smaller project, and then once your team is efficient, then you're confident to take on bigger projects. That's
Which is kind of my next question, because obviously from seeing all of it, I don't really understand how many people it takes to use all those different packages if we had to have, you know, the full thing operating
So
efficiently.
you've got a project manager on site. He can have ACC Build as his project management tool, and we can have Hollow Builder just as an add-on, giving him that flexibility to show you in the office what's going on site. So you know you can operate this with one person. What's nice with ACC Build and Hollow Builder, it does not restrict you on the amount of projects, it restricts you on the users. So ACC Build can be split up over unlimited projects. Hollow Builder, there are packages where you can purchase unlimited projects. You know, so we need to understand what are you looking at getting out of the technology adoption.
Sorry, I'm going to interrupt you.
Please.
So you're saying unlimited projects, limited users.
Yeah.
But it's about having unlimited projects. But if you've got that one user that has to travel to all the projects to get that utilization, then it kind of...
So what's nice is...
That doesn't matter for me anyway.
360-degree camera, you buy 10 of them, you have unlimited projects, you put a camera on each site, they all log into...
Through a user.
No, because Hollow Builder doesn't limit you on the users. So you can have about 1,000 people. And you can have 10 of your project managers set up as administrators and the rest as viewers, which will give them the ability to upload information onto your Hollow Builder tab. So it's just about understanding how your sites are set up and how we can set up workflows to work with your situation. Because every construction company is different.
In the beginning, you said that obviously the data is the key issue here.
Yeah.
So is there scanners and site robots or whatever you want to call them that you put down that can capture a lot of data that can actually just...
So Hollow
Builder,
Builder,
the training is the issue here.
so Hollow Builder, you are able to set up I think 14 cameras per project, but the problem is the camera required is the Theatre Z1, about 29,000 rand. And we all know everything gets stolen on a construction site. You have a 30,000 rand camera sitting in the corner recording, it's not going to be there. So the idea is your project manager is doing his site walks daily anyways. So all we're doing is adding a camera to his site walk and adding a 3-second stop at set locations for him to capture the photos. So the workflow isn't really changing. It's just adding, you know, additional items to improve, you know, the site management.
Can I just once again add to that? For all this to work, right, standardization has to happen. We must have a standard of sharing information.
Yeah.
Right, so that's where the ISO 19650 comes in. Right, once from the person authoring the information is authoring it correctly, the builder will be able to make use of that information. If there's no standard, we go back to square one. I know where you're getting at, right? So even to what you do with asset management, if the asset in the model is not modeled correctly or it doesn't have the correct information, everything falls away. So the work that we have, myself specifically as a BIM manager, to make sure that everyone is following the correct process, putting the information correctly so that we can build the building and at the end of the day you hand it over to a client that can actually use the building. That's
Okay, so can I just ask something? So our model works a little bit different. So Vodacom has an FM supplier and they do a quarterly survey and come back and say, this is all the assets that we have. But we find that sometimes they double account for the same asset. Because they tag asset on this side of the asset and on that side. So they just write and write and write. Then we receive that information and we ask the questions. It's like, is there really a chiller in this plant room? So wouldn't that be an exercise to literally go and you take the photo and the 2 barcodes and you can have a note and say, 2 barcodes, I remove this one. But at least you have a picture of the thing then. Can you scan the barcode in that application? Yeah. So I think for me, each building owner can then go and walk his building, collect his information, and then you can validate it this database of assets.
Yes.
So we'll pick up the barcode with empty information because it doesn't know what it's reading. It's up
Okay.
to the user to start populating the information associated to that barcode or QR.
So you can't attach a scanner to it. That's unfortunate.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, that's on the ACC. Yeah, but we'll chat afterwards. I've got a project where we've got one of the FM guys. What we're doing with the team, we've got like literally 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Okay.
Use it.
What we're doing with the consult, what I did, for this specific project, the client required an as-built, not an as-built, asset information model, right? And to produce an asset information model, it's a lot of work. So the contractors and consultants all signed, they're like, we want the deal, we'll give you an asset information model. Right, so we're away, when I joined the project, I think we're like 10 months away from PC, from practical completion, and they wanted to kick off this process. So we had to go back and take all the consultants, make sure that they go through this model. It's 85,000 square meters. They had to go through the entire model, make sure all the rooms are named correctly as on site, all the equipment are named correctly as on site, right? And then get the subcontractors to take the information from Revit, give it to them. They go on site and they barcode each asset, bring it back onto an Excel sheet, and then we dump it back into Revit and attach it to each equipment.
Yes.
If you do it like that and then hand over to the FM to validate everything, then you can trust the information that you're getting from your asset information model. Right, so currently we tend to, in construction, do it backwards. Right, in mining and stuff, you give a contractor a design with a specific spec and they build according to that spec. Right, fortunately, we don't work like that, so we work a bit backwards. So we have to change the way we operate a little bit, get the information right, put it on site, verify it, validate it, and then you can have an as-built. Yeah.
You can extract an asset list from the build, can't
Yes,
you?
yes, you can.
And then you can set a rule that nothing gets placed on site without that barcode, isn't it? So as it arrives, everything
Scan
gets
it in,
scanned.
put it on the
Here's my assets,
system,
so
wait
that's
it arrive.
required.
And then you can kind of, as that's building on site, you can kind of compare if you've got over.
So that's where your BIM execution plan is so important because, you know, that will talk to how assets are managed once delivered and when they need to be installed. We'll follow that BIM execution plan.
Okay. And we'll check. I'll show you something called tandem.autodesk.com. You guys can play around with it. Right, it's a asset management tool that Autodesk is working on. Okay.